and Prabhupada must be famous, the topmost famous personality in the world. So he, in 1996, we saw how he started his Abhay Charan, a project about the biography of Srila Prabhupada, and it was in all India. His desire was it must be spread all over India through TV programs. It was very successful. Then he was always, he became a guru and he was a guru and GBC in ISKCON. In 1987, he was formally become a initiating spiritual master in ISKCON, and he also a GBC. He became a GBC chairman also, and many times he took this responsibility. And recently we see he did such a great service for Srila Prabhupada in America, in a Brooklyn temple in New York. I see that the GBC has decided that time that the then president of the temple, he was not resigning, though even GBCs, they decided that the president must be resign, appoint a new president. But someone should go from the GBC side to the temple and ask, and then declare that this president is rejected by the GBC and new president is coming. So no one was doing that job. Everyone is afraid because there is. But Maharaj came there in a Sunday festival, when there is most of the congregation devotees were there, and Maharaj was able to took the mic, and he very boldly declared the decision of GBC that this temple president was rejected by GBC, and even the present peoples there, some supporters of president, they are trying to take the mic out, take this speaker from Maharaj, but Maharaj was managed to do. He started a kirtan and he left this place after that even. So he was always trying to support and help the ISKCON, GBC and Srila Prabhupada. He wanted Prabhupada to be glorified always. And a record in 2004 how he built a temple in Ujjain. Within 10 months, it is a record. It is a huge temple, a marble temple, and within 10 months he constructed the temple. This is the first time in history of ISKCON. And he made also educational system there, that Gurukul, and there is also Food for Life program. 20,000 students every day, they're getting prasadam, Krishna prasadam in schools and colleges. So Maharaj also there is, he has many ideas, all ideas just to glorify Srila Prabhupada. He has no any independent program. All programs of the Maharaj was simply for the glorification of Srila Prabhupada and to see that this ISKCON society may flourish in a way. And as a Acharya and Guru, he was also an ideal Acharya and ideal GBC chairman. He was also Maharaj also a ideal disciple and follower of Srila Prabhupada. So
हाँ?
Many achievements
कितना टाइम
Maharaj
लगेगा?
has performed in ISKCON his lifetime. And as a servant of Srila Prabhupada, in his last days in Vrindavan, he was also so last days in Vrindavan also Maharaj Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj was serving Srila Prabhupada, and he knows what is the real will of Srila Prabhupada, and he declared it later on that Prabhupada, then who will be who must have the legacy of succeeding Srila Prabhupada after Prabhupada disappear, who will lead the society. Then the Maharaj revealed this because these two personalities who came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and they asked everyone to go out of the room, and they asked secretly to Prabhupada about this question, but Prabhupada asked everyone to go out, but Maharaj was just putting one tape and to know the opinion of what is the wish of Srila Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada asked that he gave the right of leadership to everyone who has that qualification and who have that dedication to ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada. He will become particularly to one person as the leader of ISKCON or succeed Prabhupada after him. So all these things were disclosed by Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada's wills were disclosed by Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj to everyone. And Maharaj was serving Prabhupada and so intimately and in his last days. And he is after Prabhupada's disappearance, also Maharaj was acting so sincerely in ISKCON, and so sincerely he was trying his best to fulfill the desires of Srila Prabhupada. He was a GBC for many temples in ISKCON, and he was serving in Mayapur, he was serving in Calcutta, and also he was GBC for sometimes in Bhakti Vedanta Manor in UK, and he was also in USA. Now even he was time of retirement, he was a GBC in Seattle temple in USA. So Maharaj, wherever he is appointed as GBC, he worked perfectly in those places, and then we can see such an ideal example that he all the devotees of ISKCON. So everyone could as a sannyasi, in ISKCON, as a Diksha Guru in ISKCON, he set his perfect examples that how to serve Prabhupada and staying in ISKCON. That is his main thing. He never see anyone to be out of ISKCON. He was staying outside of ISKCON. He was always very much shocked seeing any Prabhupada disciple in not staying in ISKCON and staying outside. Not only Prabhupada disciples, but all other devotees, those initiated devotees in ISKCON. He always wanted to see everyone who stay within ISKCON. Always remain in ISKCON and serve in ISKCON for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. And in this goal he is trying, he was always enthusiastically giving many seminars. One such seminar I was attended I attended many of his seminars, but one in seminars he was giving about ISKCON in past, present and future. And Maharaj was very strongly and boldly talking in that seminar and inspiring devotees how to stay in ISKCON, how to serve for the pleasure of ISKCON. Whatever may be happen, one should, that is his preaching for the society, for the entire ISKCON society. So in this way we about for the glorification of Prabhupada, to spread this ISKCON movement all over the world. He made his effort. And so how to spread the glories of Srila Prabhupada and this ISKCON movement to spread everywhere. He never mind whether someone is his disciple or someone is other disciple. He was always affectionate for all the ISKCON devotees, and he was ready. He was Shiksha Guru for truly Shiksha Guru of all the ISKCON devotees. Like Prabhupada is Shiksha Guru for all the ISKCON devotees for coming next 10,000 years. So assisting Prabhupada in that mission, Maharaj also played an important role. He was always ready to help every devotee. Any devotee needs his help. And so in this way we can see how Maharaj was helpful for all of us. He was just like Shiksha Guru for all the ISKCON devotees. And by following his footsteps, and we must act according to his advice, how he was acting personally, and how he was also setting an example for all the devotees of ISKCON to act in a eager to distribute Srila Prabhupada books, and he always inspiring the devotees of his disciples and also other ISKCON devotees. I always go on distributing Srila Prabhupada, not only distribute, he also inspired reading Prabhupada books and follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. So that is his advice, and he is actually, as he dedicated his life and so everything for Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. He has no reservation for his own, for his anything for himself. He dedicated everything for Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. So this is an example of how one should act in ISKCON, how one should stay in ISKCON, and how one can make one's life perfect by staying in ISKCON only. He was always telling everyone that ISKCON is a boat, that is Prabhupada is its captain. This is a ship, and Prabhupada is the captain. And this material ocean, this material world is just like a ocean. And to cross this material world, to this ocean of birth and death, one need a boat or would need a ship. By sitting in that ship, one can cross this ocean of birth and death. And it is not enough. There must be a captain who can help you perfectly to cross this ocean. And Bhakti Maharaj always gave this instruction that Prabhupada is a perfect captain in that ocean of captain on the ship that is taking us to cross this the material ocean and to return back to Godhead. And so he was always inspiring. That's why he is a perfect guide for everyone, inspiring everyone to take shelter at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And gurus and acharyas, they are always just taking all his disciples just to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was the chief, commander-in-chief in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan army. And this great Sankirtan army, Prabhupada is chief commander, and Bhakti Charu Maharaj was one of the important commander that is assisting Srila Prabhupada in progress of the Sankirtan mission. So we can take this example and guidance from him, how spiritually, how he was perfectly following Prabhupada principles. Both not only sadhana, he is strong in sadhana, and also same time he was always regularly reading Prabhupada books, hearing Srila Prabhupada, and also always acting according to Prabhupada instructions. So in this way, we must follow this perfect example, how to dedicate and how to dedicate our spiritual master in ISKCON, how to dedicate to Srila Prabhupada, and how always remain in the path of following the GBCs as the highest executive in ISKCON. So that is an example said by Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. So in this auspicious occasion of his disappearance, we must always remember his example. Though when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking to Ramananda Rai, Dukkha Madhye Kono Dukkha Hai Gurutar, answer was the Vaishnava Vichcheda Dukkha Bina Dukkha Nahi Yar. When a great Vaishnava Acharya disappear, this is the topmost miserable experience for a devotee. But same time we know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur also used to say that he reasons who thinks that Vaishnavas die, but that thou art is living still in sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread holy name around. So you see, this is also in life of Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, how he was always, as long as he was his presence in a bodily presence among us, then how he is perfectly acting and spreading the holy name all over the world and helping Srila Prabhupada. And after his disappearance, he is also in the spiritual world among in the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and among the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for sharing wonderful lifetime achievements of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj. You mentioned about how he came to Krishna consciousness, how Srila Prabhupada himself guided him to take his shelter, and how throughout his life he always meditated to achieve something and offer to Srila Prabhupada. And in that series, you mentioned about how he wanted to make Srila Prabhupada famous all over world. And therefore, he made this Abhacharan video epic. Earlier, he was planning to make one movie, but on suggestion of others, he thought and he made a 18 hour, it's about 18 episode, 1.5 hour long session, each episode. So he made that Abhacharan. And after completing Abhacharan, before that, he did translation of Srila Prabhupada books in Bengali. And after completing Abhacharan, he worked for this world's the fastest temple actually. Within my 9 months, this temple was built at Ujjain. And then you mentioned about how always he instructed his disciples to never leave ISKCON and always tried to bring all the devotees back to ISKCON. His main point was you should stay in ISKCON. And you mentioned about that how he never discriminated among his disciple and disciples of other gurus. And at last you mentioned that how he is one of the assistant commander of Srila Prabhupada, the ship which is moving back to Godhead. So thank you very much, Maharaj, for sharing such a wonderful achievements from life of Srila Bhakti Swami Guru Maharaj. Now we will be hearing from His Grace Praghosh Prabhu. So I will give a brief introduction about. So Praghosh Prabhu is a native of Dublin, Ireland, joined ISKCON Soho Street Temple in London in 1983. And since he is offering wonderful services in mission of Srila Prabhupada, he is the active contributor to ISKCON's website dandavats.com and the driving force behind it. Praghosh Prabhu is also a GBC member. He began in 1997 as the deputy GBC member, but his ability to rise to a challenge, his quick thinking, his creativity, and good sense of humor were all noted by GBC body, and he became a full-time GBC member in 2001. And his areas of responsibility cover some of the world's colder climate, the Channel Island, Denmark, England, Iceland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Norway, Scotland, Sweden, Wales. Additionally, Praghosh Prabhu assists as a co-journal secretary for ISKCON's headquarters in Mayapur, West Bengal, India. He is currently serving as a chair of the GBC team building group. So a lot of wonderful services Prabhu has offered in service of Srila Prabhupada. We will be hearing Prabhu, his memories and service in separation. Hare Krishna.
Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Matat. Om Ajana Timarandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Umlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swaya Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swaha Badante Kam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everybody. And it's a little bit of a bittersweet talk today. So sweet because it's glorification of the ever wonderful Bhakti Swami Maharaj, and a little bitter because Association reminds me of what we learn from the very beginning of the Krishna book. Just read a few sentences from Srila Prabhupada writes by Lord Vishnu. And he broadcast it to the demigods for their immediate action. The message was this: the Supreme Personality of Godhead would appear on the earth very soon. Remained on the earth of annihilating the demons and establishing the devotees. The demigods should also remain. So that's a section from the Krishna book. I was reminded of that, thinking of Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Purity, his loyalty, and his dedication to Srila Prabhupada were surely such compelling attributes and fulfilling the mission of Lord Chaitanya for the holy names to be spread. In addition to those same qualities which resulted in a glorious devotional life in ISKCON for Bhakti Charu Maharaj, now live for longer than I guess all of us put together many times over. Also, as stated in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, it's quoted there, Lord Krishna speaking to Arjuna, and he's on that from that statement that Lord Krishna is also today chanting Bhakti Charu Maharaj's name, just as we are, and glorifying his wonderful devotee. Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he was such, I learned so much from him actually. He was such an incredible listener. He was so patient, he was so thoughtful and kind-hearted, and actually not just kind-hearted, but extremely soft-hearted. In addition to that, he was very mild and hard for me, actually, not to qualities of a devotee, all of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava. Very hard for me not to associate all of those qualities with Bhakti Charu Maharaj. However, whatever about his personal qualities, which were glorious, Maharaj was also ever ready to set those aside in the service of his beloved spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and of course, his beloved spiritual master's glorious mission, ISKCON. And at all times, when needed, he was ready to show his acumen to the highest degree, even if, in some respects, you could argue that what was required at different points in time were sort of outside his comfort zone, if you like, in terms of those qualities that I've just mentioned. And for me, an example, which was just a year or two in that sense, 2-3 years before his departure. And that was him in Brooklyn, in New York City. Which, of course, you know, it's no coincidence in many ways that that's where she, in the pastime of Brooklyn a few years back in New York, Maharaj very much exemplified that proverb that Prabhupada would quote sometimes, saying that some and the courage of a lion. And I think that was so attributable to Bhakti True Maharaj in this particular situation, when he literally led the charge in Brooklyn. You know, we could even possibly use the term Brook Lion. He was so courageous in what he did, because he volunteered to deliver the removal notice to the incumbent at that time in front of all the incumbent supporters. That's literally going into the lion's den, and can be a very challenging situation. As soon as he did that, began to do that, the electricity was promptly switched off, which meant the microphone that Maharaj was using was also switched off. But just as a candle in a windless night, Maharaj remained steadfast and was unaffected by those externals, and remained both fearless and resolute in purpose. And of course, he won the day. Glorious, glorious example. So I, along with all the devotees across the planet today, and not just today, I guess, but certainly today, will ever remember and be ever indebted to the extraordinary contribution that Bhakti True Maharaj has made to this world. His lasting legacy will surely be how much we all embrace his example as a perfect Vaishnava gentleman, and his absolute loyalty and dedication and constant service to his Guru and his Guru's mission. On a personal note, for me, Bhakti True Maharaj is and will remain my guiding light in life. And I know as long as I can keep sight of him and hang on to his coattails, my life will also be successful, and probably more successful than I could ever have dreamed of. So, thank you for everything, Maharaj. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being such a wonderful guide, and for this lowly soul, such a dear, dear friend who I could always rely on and always call on whenever I was facing challenging times. So really, from the bottom of my heart, Maharaj, I really want to thank you for your sweet, sweet friendship. And yes, I'm missing your Vapu. I'm really, really missing it. How could I not miss that? It's a big wrench, actually, and it's a big hole in not just mine, I'm sure for many, but I'll speak for myself, a big hole in our lives. Just not to have you there anymore, as I say, in your personal form like that. And, you know, for souls like me who are not so advanced, always exclusively having to rely on your Vani, you know, it's that's a little more challenging. Your Vapu was just so sweet and so instant, and had such an impact on me right from the very get-go. But still, I'm so grateful to be able to still take shelter in your Vani, and most of all, I'm able to cherish all of the wonderful memories that you so kindly allowed me to be part of. I will never forget those, Maharaj. I thank you so much for them. And I just want to honor you today as best as I possibly can. And I just hope and pray that in the service of Srila Prabhupada and in the service of Lord Krishna, that I will get your personal Vapu association someday in the future. Thanks again, Maharaj. And it's just a wonderful privilege to be able to participate in your memory today. And that really proves your legacy, that there are so many devotees around the world who are constantly Vipralambra Seva, that through separation, the personal association, whenever it may happen in the future, I know will be sweeter than it's ever been in the past. Thank you, Maharaj. All glories to you, all glories to your wonderful service. and I fall at your feet. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhakti Charu Swami.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhush Prabhu, for sharing such a heartful of his great disciples. So, just like Srila Prabhupada was sent by Chaitanya, most powerful. Prabhupada mission was a village. So he need such commanders to fulfill his mission. So but Maharaj is among one of them. You mentioned about this from Hari Bhakti Vilas that Krishna is saying, whosoever chants, he was incredible listener, kind-hearted, extremely soft-hearted, enthusiastic, and always ready to fulfill the mission of Srila Prabhupada, always dedicated for that. And regarding the leadership of Maharaj, you mentioned that um, uh, you mentioned this incident of Brooklyn Temple, and you told that how the Maharaj has heart soft as a Bengali mother and courage like a lion. So we see that from the Brooklyn incident, and surely we all missing his association, personal association, and his Vani is the only shelter for all of us. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for sharing. And now we will be hearing from His Grace Panchgauda Prabhu. So I will give a brief introduction about Panchgauda Prabhu. Panchgauda Prabhu is a senior disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He joined in July 1976 at Pantomic Temple. He was distributing Srila Prabhupada books, or he is distributing Srila Prabhupada books since last many years. He developed and managed ISKCON Miami, USA as a president from 1982 to 1990, and from 93 to the year 2000, he was the vice president of ISKCON Vrindavan. ISKCON Vrindavan has grown a lot. Many new projects has been developed in last 10-12 years, and many are in line. So we will be hearing from His Grace Panchgauda Prabhu.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaktam Divine Spiritual Master and the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the gift of Srila Prabhupada to give us this Bhagavad knowledge.